This was another piece that we did with Critical Art Ensemble called Marching Plague, which was looking at the history of biowarfare. Another quite complicated piece, and came out from a particular situation that one of the artists was in at the time. But anyway, we've been doing a lot of research with Steve Kurtz of Critical Art Ensemble about biowarfare research, and decided, for reasons that I'm not going to go into in great detail yet, to reenact an experiment that was done in the 1950s off the coast of Stornoway, releasing benign biological agents which were kind of representative, had the same particle size as anthrax, and so would be distributed in the same way. So we went up to Stornoway and made this bacteria that we'd acquired, and this is some of the original archive material that we were referred to as to how they did the experiment, and basically we completely recreated the experiment and launched this material over a pontoon of guinea pigs in exactly the same way that they'd done in the 1950s. So that's a few of the projects, but one of the things that I realized is that there aren't many artists working with the tools of biotechnology, and so we thought we would try to set up a little workshop and give a group of artists the opportunity to come and find out more about current research in genetics and bioscience, and to have a go with some of the techniques of it, so enabling them to make cultures, to do some basic genetic modification of bacteria, to do some tissue culturing, and so forth. So that was through an open call, and we selected about 20 artists on the criteria of having a very diverse group and people who might then use it somehow in their practice. So this ran for a week, and I think a good time was had by all. And I think this is slowly starting to manifest itself in the way. I mean, quite often we'll set up these things, we don't know what's going to come out of them, and nothing really comes out of them for another few years. But I met up with a couple of artists recently who were on the workshop, who said it's completely changed how they think about their work, and where they're going to start going with their practice in the future. And that's always really rewarding, because so much of this stuff we tend to dive into without having a particular specific goal in mind. Okay, I'll talk about our zero gravity and space work, for which we're probably best known, and slightly too well known in a way, because I think it rather distorts how I see the arts catalyst, which is about exploring a very broad range of how science affects society. But we started doing this work with zero gravity and then with the space agencies, and these things can take over, and obviously they're very high profile, so they get a lot of attention. This is a French artist, choreographer and researcher called Kitsu Dubois. And we started working with her in 1998. She'd been looking at movement in weightlessness with the French Space Agency, but her work had rather ground to a halt with them. So we set up a collaboration with a group of scientists called the Biodynamics Group at Imperial College in London, who were, interestingly, a multidisciplinary group of scientists, so they were able to talk across their own specializations, and that's always, for me, quite a good indicator that they're going to be able to work with artists as well. They're already, interested in coming out of their own domains. And so we set up what turned into a 5-year project looking at control and movement of the body in various states of weightlessness. And did a couple of parabolic flight campaigns with the European Space Agency, particularly on the science side, in 2002 and 2003, But we did have a lot of problems doing the art with the European Space Agency. You know, we'll do the science, we're not doing the art, and this bit of speculative science you want to do, we're not doing that either, but we'll do the hard neuroscience. So while we were waiting for a decision on our proposal, there was a lot of toing and froing. This is what's finally come out with it, and that Kitsu has actually now done some artistic campaigns with ESA. But while we were waiting for this, around 1999-2000, my colleague Rob was invited to go on the preparation flight for Dragan Živadinov's theatre production that Yuri referred to this morning. So we went to Russia. You can actually see Dragan in the middle of this. He seems to have appeared on all our campaigns to Russia. I can't possibly think why that might be. He just seems to pop up. Somehow he knows we're going to be there. So we went with Kitsu and we did a really nice project with her, but it was just such an extraordinary environment being in Star City. I thought this is, and the frustrations that we've been having, even about doing very early stage science, I thought what a great opportunity to bring artists and scientists from different disciplines and just freely experiment in this environment, and also to kind of soak up the cultural environment of Star City. We know so little, certainly in Western Europe, about the history of the Russian contribution to space exploration. So over the next 4 years or so, we did 3 trips to Star City and took a range of artists into zero gravity to experiment. So this is Marceli Antonez Roca. This was a group called Otolith Group, made a film. This is a prototype of a self-orientating robotic sculpture for weightlessness called Monument to Lost Astronauts from the Institute of Digital Art and Technology. This is me testing it. Anshuman Biswas and Jem Finer, well, you know, you had to do the flying carpet thing. We also were able to do a project with the artist Stefan Geck in the giant centrifuge at Star City. This is one of the early stage science projects that we did with a scientist called Rebecca Forth, looking at cardiovascular effects of varying weightlessness. I'm not going to talk too much about the space stuff, but we did a very large exhibition at the Roundhouse in London at the end of last year on art and human spaceflight, with commission pieces and showing some of the work, the outcomes of the works and processes that we've been doing over the last several years. Alexandra Mir decided that she wanted to make a 60-foot, 20-meter sculpture out of junk in the middle of the Roundhouse. This was a monumental and ephemeral sculpture. It was put together over 2 days, months of preparation, but over 2 days, and was up for 2 days, and then we took it down and scrapped it for 160 quid. This was a piece by the Danish group N55 with Neil White, building a space on Earth station, looking at how we actually maybe should be thinking about turning our gaze on the problems of the Earth. And this is London Fieldworks doing, again, part of the Space Soon exhibition, but they were looking at inverted sleep patterns. And they were doing a bit of early stage, also, as well as being a durational art installation, it was also a piece of early stage scientific research with the Department of Genetics at the University of Leicester, looking at gene expression during inverted sleep.